Hello again, everyone. This is Andrew Forrest. Andrew, there are people here, believe it or not, who don't know who you are and why you're here. And I think we can frame it for them quite effectively with this question. You've staked your company, you've staked your reputation, you've been staked a significant part of your fortune on green hydrogen. Why?
Okay, I think it's because I share a global community of scientists who are, like me, ecologists or atmospheric scientists, and they've seen that we've been kind of buffered from global warming over the last several years. You might not think, ladies and gentlemen, that we have, because you've had the worst atmospheric or climate-driven disasters yet ever. But over that period of time, we've had El Nino. It's a cooling impact. We've switched from El Nino to El Nino this year.
From La Nina to El Nino.
Exactly. Much better pronunciation. You're clearly not Australian. That means that the planet's warming much quicker than IPCC or anyone predicted. And we stand at very real risk now of 1.5 degrees atmospheric warming next year. And that will change.
This is the amount of warming we're trying to prevent by 2050.
By 2050, could hit us between the eyes next year.
So you are motivated by a desire to effectively fix what we've done, to reverse the damage that we've done to the climate.
Yeah, I think, and to not blame consumers, to stop saying, oh, it's consumers throwing plastic in the ocean, it's consumers who are burning the carbon. No, it's not. It's those countries and those manufacturing centres who are allowing consumers to only have one choice: pollute the planet. And we have to change. Industry and governments must change, so we give consumers the choice to not pollute the planet, and we know what they're going to choose. Don't destroy the planet. But right now, we're going headlong into climate disaster.
Okay, it's a compelling point that you make. And if you're right, that this warming of the planet could be upon us much, much sooner than 2050, it may, in fact, be here already. Why isn't anyone else, Andrew, evangelizing the virtues of green hydrogen as urgently as you are?
Look, I just don't know if there's too many doctorates in ecology at the top end of global business. That may be a reason.
We both know there are not.
Okay, that may be a reason, and also that chief executives like to have real cracks at politicians, but I can tell you they're motivated by the same thing, short-termism. And I think chief executives now must step up around the world to realise that, yes, it might impact their 1 year or 5 year bonus, but if they don't shift their companies towards green, to LNG as crossover fuel to green hydrogen, and everything else green electrons, green electricity, then they will go down in history for all the wrong reasons, that they willfully ignored the very real signs of climate change being upon us. It's not a prediction anymore, Erik. We're living in it. I mean, what's happening in your own state? I mean, I'm not sure where you're from, but...
I live in New York City.
Well, just tell us what happened there. I mean...
For those of you who haven't seen the headlines, we've been shrouded in smoke for the past 10 days.
Oh, how often
Smoke
does that
is coming
happen?
from wildfires north of the border in Canada, and yes, it appears to be a consequence of climate change.
Yeah, we had our worst fires ever in Australia. It covered Sydney in smoke.
Andrew, I know one of the reasons you're here in Marrakesh and in Africa because you see the enormous potential this continent has as a source of renewable power for electrolysis, right? That's the process by which hydrogen is extracted from water. Tell us about Africa's potential.
Africa's potential is the best in the world, and it's Africa's shot now. It's Africa's turn. What will stop Africa rightfully taking its turn will be lack of progress on technology. Companies and governments around the world choose Fortescue because we are the world leaders in technology, world leaders in next era electrolyzer design, cables, solar, all the tech which is moving our world on from having to rely on dinosaur era fossil deposits of oil, coal and gas to simply today's era of machines which make machines to harness all that beautiful renewable energy and give all the mobile energy, all the fixed energy this world could ever need by many times. Those countries who resist that are denying Africa their opportunity. And I'm saying, stop it. Let's get in behind Africa. You know, we go to countries where the presidents or their officers invite us to go. They say, look, if we want to go green hydrogen or green metals, there's one company in the world who's doing it. Would you come to our country? And that's why we are delighted to be here in Africa as technology leaders and leaders in climate thought and leaders in rapid industrial development. I just want to give you one example. The Gabonese president invited us in to develop a project which others had sat on for 40 years.
Where's this, I'm sorry?
In Gabon.
Gabon.
You know, and down the road there's another big deposit where a mining convention was granted 4 decades ago. Nothing's happened. We were granted our mining convention in February in less than, not 4 decades, less than 4 months. We had first ore on the pad next to the ship. So this is the speed which Fortescue moves at, not because we're a huge company, but because we run ourselves like a small family.
So Africa, in your words, has the best green hydrogen potential of any region in the world. Better than your home country, Australia? Better than Chile, for example? Better than the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I'm comfortable to say that. You know, I'm absolutely putting that stake in the ground. And if it doesn't get developed, it's because of lack of maybe local leadership, but lack of global support. I see, say, here in Morocco, really great leadership. Now let's get in behind Morocco to develop their resources. Let's have Morocco invite in the best technologists like us in the world to get the job done.
How on earth is Africa supposed to compete with the billions upon billions of dollars in subsidies and incentives that the US government is handing out in the Inflation Reduction Act? How?
Okay, so quite simply, it's called energy efficiency. Now, I'm going to need 3 or 4 times the number of solar panels and huge subsidies to what I could develop wind and solar here in Morocco, because the wind intensity, the quality and radiance is much higher here than anywhere in North America. And by the way, we're on the doorstep of Europe, who's begging for green hydrogen and green electrons, and Fortescue saying, we can build the cables you need straight across the pond. We can supply green hydrogen. Let's get going.
One more question for you about the IRA. Is it good policy?
No, it's excellent policy. I think those people in the Democratic Party who were brave enough to push it forward, those Republicans who didn't stand in the road, will be seen as heroes. Those countries who bellyache about it, complain about it, I'd say, get off your tail. This is the policies which every country should adopt. And if you say, well, hang on, can African countries adopt it? No, not on their balance sheet, but on ours they can. This is a very good economic decision. I explained to President Biden in his office, if you back this in, it will repay itself every 3 to 5 years in economic growth and taxes. That's a fantastic investment. You do it all day as an investor. Couldn't get enough. That's what the IRA is. It's great for countries. Economic growth is green growth. The IRA just set the example for the rest of the world. And we have the International Development Bank, we have the IFC, we have the World Bank, we have all these multilateral institutions who are waiting to invest in Africa. And let's now give them the opportunity and demand that they do.
Let's talk for a moment about cost. Solar and wind are viable sources of electricity now because they're cheaper than coal.
Well,
green hydrogen
anything, actually
isn't exactly cheap yet, is it?
No, but look, we have the largest renewable energy company in Australia. And I was speaking to a very well-known leader yesterday. It will become the largest energy company in Australia. Not oil, coal,
Your
gas.
company.
A renewable energy company will become the largest because during that rapid build-out of green hydrogen, it will have firming power, keeps the lights on during dinner in Kenya, with natural gas. Okay, that's what we will do. But we'll also go metal to the wall with green hydrogen because that must replace it.
The US Department of Energy has set a target for the end of the decade, $1 a kilogram for green hydrogen. Is that a realistic objective?
Look, we're fairly accused of being the leading technologists in the world. A lot of people talk this game, but we have major technology centres all over the world. And I see the trend. It's a lot higher now, but I can see the trend. As a long-term investor, long-term technologist, I see that trend.
To what, though? Are we going to get to $1 a kilogram, subsidy-free by 2030?
I think 2030 is hard. Don't say that I'm saying it's impossible. I've never done anything easy, right? I'm just saying to you it's hard.
What about the other barrier to adoption? When companies and countries evaluate sources of energy, efficiency is part of that equation. And there's currently a lot of wasted energy in the conversion process. If you're losing more than half the electricity you put into electrolysis, is it a viable alternative to some of those fossil fuels?
Yeah. I mean, have you heard of oil? Have you heard of gas? I mean, you convert oil out of the ground, refine it, turn it to diesel, whatever you like, which is going to cook the planet. You've already lost 60 to 70%. I mean, yes, there is a conversion loss from not losing an electron going from wind and solar straight into the grid. That's why it's the lowest cost energy in the world. But there's a conversion loss. Oh my God, a conversion loss. The oil and gas sector, green hydrogen's got a conversion loss. It's like putting lipstick on a pig from the oil and gas sector. They have had a conversion loss since 1810, right? And remember, relative dollars, their dollar per barrel was $1,600. Let's not forget that. That's how they got going. Subsidies, $1,600. Wow, it's better than burning wood. Now the same companies stand in the road of green hydrogen and say, oh my God, it's not as efficient as us. We've only had a 200-year head start, hundreds of trillions of subsidies, which we've swallowed from taxpayers. They should get none, and they want to do it in 8 or 9 years. Who would you back? I'd back us.
Andrew, Elon Musk is an influential voice in the renewable energy discussion.
No, he's an influential voice in batteries.
Well, I was about to say, he's
batteries.
dismissive of green hydrogen and all in on batteries. Why is that?
It's a lovely commercial animal. Right? I mean, battery fuel cells are the way of the world in the future because you can top up a little tank with hydrogen, you've got a battery, a way to go. But he doesn't have that economic model. He's just all batteries. He's in a bit earlier, but he's trying to make sure, a bit like carbon sequestration, that the next idiot comes along believes him. Right? But actually, hydrogen fuel cells, which needs a battery too, and I'm a huge investor in batteries. We have the leading battery technology right now, leading battery intelligence right now. I'm happy to unpack this with you as much as you like. So I'm a huge believer in batteries, but any muppet who says hydrogen doesn't have a role is a muppet.
Just to make sure that everybody got that.
That's a Muppet show on stage.
Elon is the Muppet?
I'm saying anyone, including Elon, including whoever you like, who says hydrogen hasn't got a massive future, are Muppets.
Let's go back to Africa. How much are you prepared to invest in this continent?
Tens of billions.
Over what period of time?
Well, I'm opportunity driven, right? So, I have a...
If the opportunities were here right now, would you invest that much money in the next 24 months?
Yeah, right now. Yeah, look at Kenya, right? I mean, what I love about North Africa most is that it's full of smart people. So Kenya, they're wasting truckloads of steam. We're going to convert that steam to green electricity, green hydrogen, fertilizer. Right? We want to do that across Africa. Green fertilizer is the way of the world, and all that wasted energy can make this beautiful region never worry about food shortages, scarcity again.
I'm sure you're finding, however, that even in the most advanced African economies, this place can be a challenging one in which to do business. What do you need to see before you're prepared to commit capital?
Leadership, decisiveness, people who, and government leaders, corporate leaders who are prepared to go from MOUs. I'm not a fan of MOUs. We'll sign them if we have to. to binding agreements. I mean, I can't bank an MOU. I can't finance an MOU. We're a huge public company. We might be run like a little family, but we have very strict governance. So there's only a few places in the world where we'll commit millions of dollars without a binding agreement. Now, I'm doing that all over Africa because I'm giving people time. And we're just investing in the faith of the good character of the people we're dealing with. But I would like to say, take the DRC. We were there when no one was there, at the start of COVID, right? When there was we had to take our own testing machine. There was no vaccines, there was no tests. We had to do it all ourselves. We went there and we made a proposal to develop Groundinga. Now, I'd have to say, if ink doesn't go on that contract this year, then we have to inform the President that there's too many other countries, say like this magnificent country, who demand our technology, demand our capital, and which we have to pay attention to.
Have you delivered that message yet?
You know,
Or did you just deliver it?
I just delivered it.
Andrew, I was in Qatar recently, and when I was there, I heard the Saudi energy minister, Abdulaziz bin Salman. Now, for those of you who don't know, Saudi Arabia is a bit complicated. It is, of course, the pivotal oil producer in OPEC, but it also claims to be building the largest utility-scale green hydrogen project in the world, in the far north of the country, in the city of Neom, that the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is behind. Now, somewhat like Elon, ABS, Abdulaziz bin Salman, was critical of green hydrogen, which he did call it the cleanest of clean fuels, but he said what investors demand, and you're an investor, is long-term certainty. And he says in green hydrogen, there is no certainty, and I'm going to quote him directly. I ask you, who is going to be the off-taker, and what will the price be? There are no clear policies for the off-takers. How do you respond to that?
I'd say, and where do you make your income? Oh, oil, gas. I'd be throwing as many screwdrivers into that gearbox as I could. And that's all that's happening there. I mean, massive vested interest, massive, look, technology will eventually get there. In the meantime, we've got to have economic growth at all costs. I can tell you the cost, it's going to be the planet. So yeah, I'm very used to those arguments. I'd say, look, London was going to be destroyed with horse manure. They didn't know how to get rid of horse manure, right? Then the engine came along. Before that, we used slaves instead of wheels to build the pyramids. Okay, now we're going to green hydrogen, and there's going to be massive resistance from those who are locked into their current income streams. They'll give you lots of public signals, but I always believe trust a person generally pretty well for what they say, but completely what they do. And we are fully committed to stopping this world cooking. And if you take that little excuse trotted out by that little oil company, right, that we should be careful here, investors want certainty, blah, 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 well, I can tell you, mate, you got there because someone else took risk on oil. And we save our planet because people are taking risks on green hydrogen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Forrest.
Thank you.